Where is my thingy? My remote control. It's never clean enough, and then you start cleaning and you can't find anything anymore. Should have never started cleaning. There it is! I found it! It was where I left it. How odd. So hello there. Welcome back to another video. And a kind of tragic story. It's not tragic, but I want to drama for a second. I filmed the whole vlog and then I started looking at the footage and I hated every second of it. Also I deleted like my entrance, the only part that was okay, like the introduction. I liked that part. So now I'm here refilming it and I thought like, why not refilm everything? And you may ask, how do you refilm a vlog? You've already read all the books. You can't do that. And to that I say, well, you're right. I am going to try and film a kind of check-in, more or less, right now. So I'm gonna tell you where I'm at, I'm gonna tell you what I thought, and then I'm gonna tell you what I will be reading for the second part of the readathon. But first of all, let me explain the rules just for a second here. I'm out of breath already.
What the hell is the Asian Readathon?
For everyone who does not know, the Asian Readathon is a month-long readathon created by Cindy from Read with Cindy, I think 2 years ago. She created it because she generally thought that there was too little Asian representation amongst booktube, and by that she meant like literature written by Asian authors. So here we are. I've got the prompts for... Wow, it's hairy. I'm so sorry, I'm so disgusting. So there are some prompts that come with this readathon. And I'm gonna read you the prompts right now, and we're gonna talk about them in depth later.
Man, I knew there was a catch.
Prompt number 1, question number 1, challenge number 1 is read any book written by an Asian author. Second challenge is read any book featuring an Asian protagonist. Third one, read any book written by an Asian author in your favorite genre. Fourth one, read any read any non-fiction book written by an Asian author. Fifth and final challenge, read any book written by an Asian author that is not US-centric. This year, Cindy has introduced a kind of twist to the challenges. And the twist is going to be that every book that you read has to be written by an author from a different Asian country. So if for challenge number 1, 5, and 3 you have found someone Korean, you're out of Koreans. Like, the other 2 challenges have to be done with books by non-Korean authors. When this video is going to go up on my channel, there is still going to be a good amount of month left. So if you want to join me in this challenge, feel free to join me. It doesn't matter, in fact, if you read 5 books or 1 book, as long as it is fulfilling the prompts.
Asian books, I own them.
So I want to start off this moment by admitting that I was a fool, because for some reason I felt like I've got this. My rule of not buying books this year, I didn't care. Like, I was like, easy. 5 different Asian authors on my shelf, on my TBR shelf, here, physical, I've got this. Man, I couldn't have been more wrong. I've looked through every shelf that I owned and I found 3 Asian authors, which is so sad. So those are the 3 books that I owned. And these are all written by Japanese authors. So I've got Hanya Yanagihara's The People in the Trees, I've got Junji Ito's Shiver, and I've got, where is her name? Yoko Ogawa's The Memory Police, pardon. So with those books, I was legally able to fulfill 1 prompt. Okay. what are we gonna do now? I'm gonna tell you how it ended. I started justifying why I would read 2 out of those 3 books that I just showed you. I wanna get rid of books, of the physical books that I own. So, I developed this kind of loophole where I convinced myself that a person being born and raised in Japan has still a different mindset and view on the world than a person who was not born in this case Japan, has not grown up there, has maybe parents who live there but who have moved to America before their birth, which is the case with Hanya Yanagihara. Hanya Yanagihara has, as far as to my knowledge, never lived in Japan. So that's justification done. Now I chose to read Hanya Yanagihara's People in the Trees, and I've chosen to read Junji Ito's Shiver. So technically, I am breaking kind of the rules, but as a compensation, I told myself that I was not allowed to read anything other by any Asian American author. Now, I'm gonna move to what I'm gonna read for the challenges, because I feel like it's that kind of point.
No, I'm gonna read that. I swear.
Prompt number 1, read any book written by an Asian author. I think I've chosen The People in the Trees. Funny thing about this one is like that it's not from the perspective of an Asian person. It is the point of view of a white, old scientist. Interesting choice, Hanya. So that was number 1. Number 2 is read any book featuring an Asian protagonist. Where is she? My love. Kim Ji-young, born 1982. I have already read that. It's by a Korean author, starring a Korean protagonist. So challenge number... Those need to go down. There you go. Challenge number 3. Where's my cheat sheet? Challenge number 3. Read any book written by an Asian author in your favorite genre. For this I took Shiver. Shiver is a horror manga. I am currently in the middle of reading this one. Number 4, read any nonfiction book written by an Asian author. With this one I am actually struggling, but I'm thinking about Philippine writing that my best friend recommended to me, or at least like she told me the title, and I will just have to understand if it is actually non-fiction. And then for the 5th one, read any book written by an Asian author that is not US-centric. I chose The Tales of 1001 Night. I'm not sure if it is called that in English, but you know, like Alibaba and the 40 Hoiba the burglars? Aladdin, stuff like that, okay? You know, those tales that originated from there. And this is an ambitious project. I have pre-ordered the book yesterday. It's not here yet. Would have been a miracle if it was. But it apparently has about 900 pages each. And it is like a 2-part piece. So I'm only going to read one of those parts. And if I manage to, I will be the happiest person on earth, because I know myself. I'm kind of self-sabotaging myself with this one here. But you know, they say shoot for the stars and you'll end up on the moon. So I know that I at least will have read something. If not all of it, something. And that's cool. More than nothing. Now you know what my TBR for the readathon looks like. But I also want to talk about the books that I've read so far. This part can get boring because I'm going to talk about a book in detail, in depth. Maybe not in depth. I'm gonna try and keep it nice and crisp and short, but I'm not that good at it. So buckle in.
Oh my god, your taste in books is so basic.
So the books that I have read so far, those 2. Let's start with The People in the Trees because I haven't mentioned it enough by now. People in the Trees. This one is the first book that Hanya Yanagihara wrote, I think in her life, maybe? I don't want to assume that, but at least it's the first one that she published. It came out in 2013, 2015 was A Little Life, maybe you know this one. Has been talked about on Booktube quite a bit. But this is Little Life's older brother, and I mean that because they seem to be very related, not only in writing style, but also in tragedy. So as you can see, the covers, where are we? Here. The covers are actually already looking very similar, like the black and white, the orange and black font, the male protagonist on the cover. What else? The bestseller sticker on the side. I don't know. But actually this just says that A Little Life was a bestseller. This is not. Okay. So, other things that are similar are that we have chapters, as we do have in A Little Life. So we have like, oh no, not chapters, but we have parts. We have part 1 to 7. I don't remember how many they were in A Little Life, but it doesn't matter. So we have parts 1 to 7, and then we have chapters that are dividing these parts within the parts. Excuse me, mister? So the story is from the point of view of a white man, a scientist, a medical scientist. The whole thing starts off with a newspaper article stating that said scientist has been accused of sexual assault. Soon after that, we know that he ended up in jail. And this medical scientist is writing letters to a friend of his. Now, the person who receives the letters from jail, from the scientist, does not believe in his guilt, and he therefore he wants to tell the story of this scientist from his perspective, and he wants to defend him kind of. That is for that's the frame of everything. Then there's the main story that happens. So the story that is actually being told by the scientist. It's a kind of in that comparison, it's also very similar to A Little Life, because the story that the scientist tells the other guy is been told through an entire lifespan. So let's talk about the story that the scientist is telling us. He tells us about his scientific expedition. It's described as a kind of sinister jungle expedition, but there's it's not that much jungle. There is jungle there, but that's not the main focus. I thought when I bought this book that I'm about to read, I don't know, a King Kong adventure, discovering ancient species that shouldn't be alive but still are in some way. I don't know, that's what I imagined when reading the back side of the book, but it's not. It's actually, it's quite timid. There's not much action going on. I think I've just decided that I'm not gonna tell you what the thing about the thing is. I'm just gonna tell you that there's something that he discovers, and from there on it dictates his whole life. It's going to be a huge thing for him. As we know our girl Hanya, we know that this book is trying to get to your emotions. But compared to A Little Life, I would just say that it wasn't sadness being the main emotion felt during this entire process. It was rage. I fucking hated the main character. He is a scumbag, and he's not being portrayed to be a good person, which is something Hanya Yanagihara does super well. It's been written from his point of view, and he wants to kind of portray himself as a good person. He gives reasons why he's not to be doomed by society. But you know that what he does and what he is just wrong, and he cannot justify it, but he still kind of does, and it's fascinating how she does it, how even the footnotes, the writer from the footnotes, you know that he's on the side of the scientist. It's so interesting, but hey, it also leaves you with a bit of hatred in your heart. If you've read A Little Life, you know how provoking she can be with tragedies. And there was something like in the middle of the book where it was like, why the fuck was that placed here? Did that have to be here? Like, of course it's her provoking us readers. But other than that, nothing really, like, it was okay. It was like, by her standards, she was actually like below what I expected it to be, until the very end. That changed my mind. Like, that was the point when I recognized, like, yeah, still a Hanya Yanagihara book. No, not many feelings to be spared here. Okay, enough talky about this one. Let's walkie over to this one, Kim Ji-young, born 1982. This one is fantastic, and I am like speaking from my soul. I haven't cried that much for A Little Life. I did not. It poked me at a very special place in my heart, you know? Okay, let me tell you what it's about. It's about a woman living in Korea, just living. Also, like from the beginning of her life until 2015, 2016. And you see her going through life and all the struggles that she as a woman in the Korean society has to face. All of the implications, all of the burdens, all of the sexism, all of the discrepancies, like everything that you go through as a Korean woman living in Korea. And not only is it pointed out by the private observations of the author, all the things that happen to this woman throughout her life, there are statistics linked in the footnotes. The things that she's talking about is very much reality for a lot of Korean women. The message in here is not groundbreaking, it is not revolutionary, it is not new, but it shows you a part of reality. Like, the fight for equality is not over. And I know I can only relate to it to a certain extent, but I also know that no woman has not at least made one experience of discrimination. Either it being some schoolboy talking smack about you, calling you a slut for, I don't know, like discovering your sexuality, or your parents pressuring you into getting children, even though you're not ready for it. It doesn't matter. There are so many levels on which people still think that women have to be a certain way and that certain behavior is expected for women. It's fucking not. Let me tell you this. Before I start a whole rage campaign here, let's just say that this is a recommendation from my heart to anyone who listens and who wants to read about this. An amazing book. Amazing. But there's always a but. This has nothing to do with what is written in here, but I still want to mention it because I've heard this comment and I want to acknowledge it. So this book is translated from the Korean language. If you speak Korean, good for you. Get yourself a copy in Korean. I have read the German version. A friend of mine has read the English version. Both of them are translated in this kind of Asian translation style. I don't know if you know what I mean, but if you speak English or German, there is a certain flow to your language that is not been represented in Asian language. I don't know about a lot of Asian languages, but at least I can say that this is true for Japanese and for Korean. Like, it is kind of a boxy translation. It doesn't really go with your melody of speech in your head very well while reading. So you maybe have to be in the mood for this kind of writing, but it would be really sad if you would refrain from reading this just because of how it's translated. But hopefully you will manage to look past this translation aspect. And with this, I am kind of done. I'm done with my check-in, so I checked in for 2 of the 5 books that I wanted to read. For the other 3, maybe it's going to look something like this, and it will just have the number 2 of Asian Readathon check-in on the title, and then we're good to go. Probably it's going to be that. Anyway, so bye!